Welcome. This is Uncommon Sense, a podcast presented by the Hesje CPA Knowledge Centre. The Centre is an initiative of the CPA Education Foundation, the charitable arm of the Chartered Professional Accountant profession in Alberta. Our episodes feature conversations with Alberta CPAs sharing their insights on a wide range of timely topics. Alberta CPAs work in every part of the economy and volunteer their time and expertise in virtually every community in Alberta. With each episode, we bring you voices and perspectives that reflect the diverse knowledge and contributions that CPAs bring to our province. Hello, I'm Jessica de Groot with the CPA Education Foundation. On this episode of Uncommon Sense, we're stepping away from our usual format of profiling an Alberta Chartered Professional Accountant with an interesting story to tell. Instead, we're going to speak with a guest who plays an important role in a unique Alberta educational and scientific resource, a resource with a connection to our foundation's Hesje CPA Knowledge Centre. That resource is the Hesje Observatory. Located in the University of Alberta's Augustana Miquelon Lake Research Station, the observatory is named after the late Chartered Professional Accountant Brian Hesje, in recognition of Brian's substantial gift to the facility. Of course, Brian was also the philanthropist whose generosity led to the establishment of the Hesje CPA Knowledge Centre, the creator of this podcast. During his distinguished lifetime, Brian was known across Canada as a visionary business leader and a profoundly generous supporter of many causes. A lesser-known part of Brian's life was that he spent time as a teacher, an experience that led to his lifelong belief in the importance of education and of creating access to educational opportunities for all who sought them. It was that belief that in part led to the creation of the Hesje Observatory. So, in honor of Brian and his incredible legacy, we're joined today by Alex Gulay, Programming Coordinator and Technician for the Hesje Observatory and the Augustana Miquelon Lake Research Station. She's here to talk about the observatory and the impact that Brian Hesje's gift has had on the observatory's operations. Alex has held her position with the research station and the observatory at the University of Alberta's Augustana campus for the past 3 years. She's also had the opportunity to teach introductory physics labs for several semesters as part of Augustana's Department of Science. Alex has been passionate about spreading her knowledge for science since her early days in university. She earned a Bachelor of Science in Geophysics at the University of Manitoba, where she also worked at a nonprofit that focused on getting school-aged children interested in science, technology, engineering, and math. This work opened doors for her to later work for Parks Canada, the Manitoba Geological Survey, an engineering firm in Edmonton, and now her current role at Augustana. It's so great to have Alex with me today. Welcome, Alex.
Hi, Jessica. Thanks so much for having me.
So usually our guests on this podcast are CPAs, and we start each episode by asking them to share a piece of uncommon sense with us. So let's start this episode the same way. Can you tell us some uncommon sense that you've learned? Maybe it's a memorable piece of career advice or just some words of wisdom that have meant something to you.
Yeah, for sure. So my uncommon sense is maybe common sense to anybody in my field, anybody who's into astronomy and into space. But for those who are not particularly into it, but are interested in it and want to maybe look into it a little bit more, my kind of uncommon sense piece of advice for them is to head out somewhere dark, somewhere outside of the city lights, and take a look up. You don't need any kind of telescope or fancy equipment to enjoy meteor showers or northern lights shows or planet alignments or anything like that. A lot of people think you need expensive equipment to enjoy space, but you absolutely do not.
Yeah, that's very cool. And I feel like we're also very blessed here to experience a lot of cool things like the Northern Lights and things that people in other places of the world don't get to see very often.
Yeah, absolutely. People travel to Edmonton just to see the Northern Lights pretty often.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much for that. And before we start discussing the Hesje Observatory, can you tell us a little bit about your career journey and how a University of Manitoba graduate wound up working for the U of A's Augustana campus?
Yeah, so I mean, you mentioned a little bit about my history. I was born and raised in Winnipeg, and I went to the University of Manitoba there, and I worked at a nonprofit where I spread science outreach knowledge with people, with students from grades kindergarten to grade 12. I worked some summers at Parks Canada. I worked some more scientific summers with the Manitoba Geological Survey. Ended up in Edmonton working as a geophysicist after my degree, and then decided to sort of go back to my roots of outreach and public education kind of things, and wound up in this role at Augustana.
Wonderful. What made you, have you always been interested in geophysics?
No. Admittedly, I started off actually my university career in engineering, and I just wanted something a little more sciencey, and I didn't want to lose all my calculus classes I had taken.
Yes. Don't want those to be for nothing, for sure.
Yeah. But geophysics is certainly something I'm still very interested in. Of course, it's not exactly completely the same as astrophysics or astronomy. Geophysics is more the physics of looking down into the earth instead of up away from the earth. But physics is physics, so it all kind of works out okay.
Yeah. So what is the Miquelon Lake Research Station, and how does it fit with the programming at Augustana and the entire University of Alberta?
So the Augustana Miquelon Lake Research Station is just that. It's a research station. It was built in about 2015. And its main purpose at Augustana is to host students for field courses. They'll come out for 3 weeks, a month. Some people will do research projects that span a couple months, and they'll spend time out at the research station doing their research. Mostly it's ecology students and environmental science students. We're starting to see a little bit more research in the observatory side of things, but the research station itself is mainly for students in those other sciences to come out, live there. There's a kitchen, there's washrooms with showers, there's sleeping quarters, there's everything for somebody to basically live out there. So we have students come out and live in the research station.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Is there anything that makes it particularly interesting in terms of the ecosystem around there or something like that?
Yeah, it's part of the Beaver Hills Biosphere Preserve area. It's a big strip of land that basically spans from Elk Island all the way down to Miquelon Lake Provincial Park. It's all a very similar ecosystem. There's lots of wetlands. There's lots of prairie and wetlands kind of meeting, I guess. That's the main draw with that.
Okay, cool. What are your primary duties at the research station and in particular at the Hesje Observatory?
My primary duties are basically to keep everything running at both the research station and at the observatory. I do kind of maintenance and things like that around there, but I also manage all of our bookings and host programming when people come out. Most of my programming I host is at the Hesje Observatory. I don't do a ton of programming out of the research station itself, but the observatory, I do programming pretty regularly.
Okay. Can you tell us a little bit more about the history of the Hesje Observatory? When was it established? Why is it located at Lake Miquelon Research Station?
Yeah, so the observatory was completed in 2020, which of course was right in the middle of COVID times. So it took a little bit longer for it to open to the public, but it has been open since 2020. And it's located in Miquelon Lake Provincial Park because the Beaver Hills Biosphere Preserve, like I was mentioning before, is actually also a dark sky preserve. So it means that it's an area that's been certified to have sort of darker skies than most areas in the area. So, of course, that makes it a really good location for an observatory because it's nice and dark, it's far away from city lights, and we got really, really good skies to look at out there.
Awesome. And what types of equipment does the observatory have for stargazing?
So our primary telescope we use at the observatory is our big plane wave instruments CDK-17, which stands for Corrected Dahl Kirkham 17-inch. That's the type of telescope it is, but it's got a 17-inch mirror in the back of it. It's a big reflective telescope. But we also have a Celestron Edge HD 11-inch reflective telescope that we sometimes use as well. That one it's a little bit more portable, so we call it our portable scope. It weighs a ton, but we can move it around. That's the one we bring elsewhere outside of the research station and the observatory. We bring it to promote at events or to watch, solar eclipses and things like that in Camrose or in Edmonton or wherever. But the main one we have is that big CDK-17. That's the one that most people want to see. It's the largest telescope that the U of A has, the most powerful telescope that the U of A has. And so I'm lucky to be the one to control it.
Yeah, that is very cool. I don't even know if I've ever used a telescope in my life. Like, I've used binoculars, but I can't even imagine how that wouldn't compare.
You know what? Binoculars are pretty good. Yeah, you can do a lot with binoculars.
Okay. So what are some of the coolest, we kind of touched on some of the cool things you can see in the sky here. What are some of the coolest and most interesting things that can be seen with the observatory telescope?
Yeah, so with the observatory telescope, we can see pretty much every planet in our solar system, some of them with more detail than others, but Saturn and Jupiter are really cool to see. Anybody who's seen them with a telescope before can probably agree. Even with a small telescope, they're really cool to see. But our telescope, of course, we are zoomed in even further than a smaller telescope. And so we can see the moons around Saturn. We can see the rings on Saturn.
Wow.
Jupiter, we can see its Galilean moons. And we can see almost sort of like banding on it, sort of stripes, a couple stripes on it. So we can see sort of some color detail on Jupiter. So those are really popular. The moon is also amazing to see through the big CDK-17 telescope. It fills up the entire field of view. Mm-hmm. But we can see all sorts of things. We can see nebulae, we can see star clusters, we can see distant galaxies. I'd say regularly we can see on a clear night galaxies that are 37 to 40 million light years away. Like that's a common occurrence. So
wow.
Yeah.
Very cool. You mentioned the term nebulae. Can you tell us what nebulae are?
So nebulae or nebulas or whatever you want to say in the plural form are basically gas, dust, debris clouds. Usually, a lot of the ones we look at through the telescope anyway are a star that exploded and it left over sort of gas and dust and whatever else. There are also ones that are, you may have heard stellar nurseries thrown around before. There are nebulae that are that kind of nebula as well, where it's basically, again, gas and dust, but instead of stars having exploded and left behind gas and dust, it's instead an area where stars are being formed. Little baby stars are. So Orion Nebula in the wintertime is a really good example of one of those. It's really bright. You can actually see it just with if you're really good at star hopping with the naked eye on a really clear night, and for sure with binoculars, you can see that nebula. It's very bright. But then we also look at the other ones where a star exploded, like the Ring Nebula or Dumbbell Nebula. They're just gas and dust clouds that remain.
Okay. So do stars form from gas and dust?
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
I don't think I knew that.
Yeah. It's we sort of have both ends of the star life spectrum with nebulae. Mm-hmm. People often think when a star explodes, it's gonna go full supernova, and that does happen for really big stars. But there's also a lot of not really big stars and just sort of normal sized stars that'll just sort of blow up and leave gas and dust.
Mm-hmm. Can you, just on any clear night, go out and see these things, or does it have to be certain times of the year? Or
with the planets, they are only kind of in the sky at reasonable hours at certain, not even so much at certain times of year. It really depends on the individual planet because they have such long orbits compared to us. So you kind of have to Google it before if you want to see something specific like that. But other things like nebulae and star clusters and galaxies, we can see those We can see those year round. It's a little bit harder in middle of June when it doesn't really get fully dark to see galaxies, but pretty much everything else.
Yeah, makes sense. So now would be a good time that it's dark at 4 o'clock in the evening.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. And how is the observatory utilized as an educational and research resource for students, faculty members, and others at the U of A?
So the observatory has physics courses that are actually being developed to sort of center around it as we speak. We have a new physics instructor that's just started at Augustana, and she's currently building courses that will really heavily utilize the telescope out there. There already are some advanced physics courses at Augustana that come out for a little tour with the telescope. And then we also have just U of A groups that will come out for fun to come see the sky. There's a University of Alberta Astronomy Club based out of the Edmonton campus. There's the Augustana Wildlife Club based out of Augustana campus. They both come pretty much annually to come see the stars. Some different departments at the university have come out to host retreats and stuff like that. But yeah, so far for educational and research purposes, it's mainly just been educational things that have been going on. Research is another thing that our new physics professor that's just started is really keen to get more of. We just got a nice new camera, and so she's starting to take some scientific photographs and stuff like that with that. And yeah.
Awesome. Is it open to members of the public? And do you welcome like school groups and others to tour the facility at all?
Yeah, absolutely. So every week on Thursdays, pretty much throughout the year, we take a little bit of a break over the holidays. But throughout the year on Thursday nights, we have open drop-in nights. So anybody can come. They can stay for as long or as short as they'd like, and I'll show them everything in the sky that's out that night. Those are weather dependent, and so you have to check our website before coming out for any of those. But every week on Thursdays, weather depending, we do that. People can also book out the whole observatory for a private booking just for them and their 9 closest friends. We can fit about 9 people comfortably in the observatory. Okay. So people can book it all out for themselves if they don't want to share with others at a drop-in night. And so groups like school groups or we get a lot of scouts groups or other clubs, things like that are always welcome to do a private booking and join us.
Mm-hmm. So I think it's fairly obvious based on my questions that I don't know a lot about astronomy, but do you and your colleagues find that there's a strong interest in astronomy among people in general these days?
I believe there is. I mean, everybody thinks space is cool, whether you know anything about it or not.
Yes.
It's so cool. Yeah. There's no denying it. So that attitude prevails for sure. Mm-hmm. I see kids. I get a lot of kids that come out with parents that are really enthusiastic about their kids being enthusiastic about space, and that's so awesome to see. Mm-hmm. So loads of kids are really interested in space still. I think everybody's still interested in space. There's it's such a mysterious thing.
Yeah. That's what I've been thinking about this whole time. My boys are 5 and 8, and I can just imagine them loving it and they think like a full moon is cool. So they'd love it.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you have any funny or interesting stories to tell about how visitors react to seeing the moon or these other like celestial bodies through the observatory telescope?
I definitely get a lot of gasps and oohs and ahs for the moon and for Saturn and for Jupiter. Those 3 are sort of the highlights for a lot of people. Mm-hmm. I sometimes say that Saturn is a little bit of a gateway into becoming obsessed with astronomy. Some people see it for the first time and then they can't get enough and they go out and buy a telescope and they're hooked.
Yeah.
So I get a lot of gasps and oohs and ahs, but people always want to try to take photos through the telescope too, which you can do with your cell phone. You just have to have a really steady hand. Mm. I enjoy the way people sometimes describe some of the more abstract things, the deep space objects like nebulae and galaxies. They sometimes look kind of funny, and so people have all sorts of interesting ways to describe them. Like they look fuzzy, or they look like popcorn, or they look like all sorts of weird things. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Not to get too controversial, but has anybody ever claimed to see anything like extraterrestrial or anything through the telescope?
People joke about it a lot.
Okay.
So far, I don't think anybody has seen anything too crazy. Sometimes a satellite will fly by when somebody's looking, and that's exciting. Or if there's a meteor that flies by, I can't say one way or the other unless I'm looking through there to say what it is. So sometimes people see satellites and or meteors fly by.
Yeah.
Yeah, no extraterrestrials yet.
Okay. Are there any current or upcoming activities or research initiatives at the observatory that you're especially excited about?
For me, with our new camera we got, getting some really good astro photos is a big priority for me, and I'm really excited about that. It's something we got it in the spring, and it's been kind of not dark enough to use it a whole lot until now, so really getting into it now. Another kind of fun research initiative that we're collaborating on is with Dr. Glenn Havinegard from Augustana campus. He does research on dark sky tourism, so we are hoping to do. He's doing surveys on people's experiences in dark sky areas, and we're collaborating with him to get him some more results. And so that's exciting to find out what people think about the observatory and where we can improve and where people are happy, all that kind of stuff.
What is dark sky tourism?
So that's when people go somewhere, say they go to like Yellowknife or something just to see the Northern Lights.
Okay.
Or there's like the Jasper Dark Sky Festival. Somebody might go to that just to see whatever they have to offer.
Right.
There's also like events around meteor showers, anything like that, basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So let's talk a moment about Brian Hesje's connection to the observatory. How did Brian's name come to be attached to the facility?
Brian and his family contributed a very generous amount of money to the university. And so that's basically how he got his name attached. He pretty much funded the whole observatory. Yeah.
And what would you say has been the impact of Brian's contribution to the observatory?
I mean, it's immense. Truly, the observatory wouldn't exist without his very generous donation and his commitment to the observatory through his donation and through additional donations that have made it possible to keep programming and things like that going. Yeah, it's huge.
Yeah, really impactful for sure. What does it mean to you and your team to know that Brian believed so much in the work of the observatory that he chose to make such a sizable donation towards it?
I mean, to me specifically, it means a lot. I don't think my job would exist if it wasn't for his contribution and for for everything he did for the observatory. I have a job that a lot of people tell me is their dream job, and I'm happy in my job for sure. So I'm super grateful for what he did and for the existence of the observatory.
Yeah, I can relate. I might be working for the foundation, but I doubt I would be sitting here doing this podcast if it weren't from Brian. So
yeah.
What is one thing that you absolutely love about your job?
I love showing people things that they've never seen in the sky before and seeing their reactions, like we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
I've had people come out who've had bucket list things that they've wanted to see their whole life, and I'm able to show it to them, and that's really fulfilling to be able to check things off people's bucket list for them.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
But it's just also so fun seeing like the next generation of scientists, like the kids that come out that know absolutely everything about space, and seeing them interact with the telescope and learn a little bit more and maybe teach me a few things sometimes. It's so fun to see people excited about space and science and all that fun stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I often have to remind myself that because I mentioned things that we can see here that people in other places of the world can't. And of course, they can see things that we can't as well. We travel to go and see things too, but we have such remarkable experiences here, such as the Northern Lights or the mountains, the Rocky Mountains, right? We're not too far from Jasper or Banff. It's a weekend trip or even a day trip for people that live in Calgary. So I think we sometimes take for granted that we can just access that so easily.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So finally, is there a website or a social media account where people can go to find out more about the Hesje Observatory?
Yeah, your best bet to find our website is to just Google Hesje Observatory. We do have a website, but it's a big, long URL, so there's no point in me spelling it out. There is another observatory that the U of A has here in Edmonton, so just make sure you look for the one that's, the Augustana website. So Hesje Observatory will get you there. We also have a Blue Sky and an Instagram where we post updates on our drop-in times and whether we're on that week or not, depending on the weather. So you can check those out. They're both just Hesje Observatory, all one word, all lowercase.
No, that's great. I think I think anyone listening would want to come and check it out. It really sounds amazing. And I don't know, you sold me on the telescope, because if you can see stuff like that, I think that's just like remarkable.
Yeah, it's really cool. There's no denying it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here today, Alex, and for speaking so knowledgeably about the Hesje Observatory. We at the CPA Education Foundation and CPAs across Alberta are tremendously proud of the contributions that Brian made to the quality of life in our province. So it's been really great to hear from you about the lasting impact of one of those contributions. And thank you again, and all the best to you.
Thanks so much. You as well.
The Uncommon Sense podcast is presented by the CPA Education Foundation and funded by the Hesje CPA Knowledge Centre. The Knowledge Centre was created through a generous donation by the late Brian Hesje. Brian was a distinguished Albertan, business leader, CPA, educator, and community builder. His generosity and commitment to education underpinned his good works across Alberta throughout his lifetime. The opinions expressed on Uncommon Sense do not necessarily reflect the views of the CPA Education Foundation. We would like to acknowledge that CPA Education Foundation offices are situated on the traditional Treaty 6 and Treaty 7 territories and Métis Nation homeland. The Foundation acknowledges that we reside on traditional and ancestral territories of many Indigenous, First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples. Their histories and culture influence our community to this day. The Foundation is committed to helping build a province where Indigenous people and their voices and experiences are heard, valued, respected, and celebrated. Technical and recording services for this podcast provided by Wolf Willow Studios in Edmonton. If you enjoyed this podcast, please be sure to like, subscribe, and tell your friends about us. If you have any comments about the podcast, write to us at cpaef@cpaalberta.ca. To learn more about the CPA Education Foundation and the Hesje CPA Knowledge Centre, visit cpaalberta.ca/foundation.